Ladestütze tot. Wir können nicht mehr so schnell schießen. Mitte wurde getroffen. Sie kann jeden Moment reißen. Der ging voll durch ihre Panzerung. Cible détruite.
Hi and welcome back. So in the previous task we've done some introduction to risk, and in this task we're going to calculate the monthly returns and a standard deviation for our FANG companies, for S&P 500 and for our overall FANG portfolio. So let's start with the monthly return. So what we do is we'll get the average return. So here we have it. Let's just highlight some of them and look up what is the last one. So that's 1510. Okay, and we forgot a formula. It would be an average. Great. Okay, the machine is thinking. Let it think for a while. Okay, so notice that this is not a monthly return, that's a daily return. So how do we turn it into a monthly return? So what we do is do this, then our 21 and -1. So why 21? That's simple because there are 21 trading days in a month usually. Okay, and what we can do now is we just copy that and we pass it over here and just change this one from FB, from the Facebook sticker, to an Amazon ticker, because those are what we have here. We got the tickers as the names, and here we have Apple and Netflix. So not difficult, right? And here, so instead of going there every time, just do it a smart way. And here we'll have a slight problem. I know why. Because we have a slightly different column. So let's check what the column is, and that's a G column. So we might want to, because it has more columns there. So let's do G, and then now it works. Okay, so now let's calculate the monthly return of our portfolio. This is pretty simple to do. So assuming there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stocks in our portfolio and they're all equally weighted, so we assign the weights here. We just multiply each return by its weight. And this is our median return, monthly return for our portfolio. Okay, so now with standard deviation. As you remember, the standard deviation is the risk as a volatility. So let me just quickly go to the basics. So that's our normal distribution. And if it says that, so let's quickly go here. So if it says that the monthly return is 2.23%, So a 2.23% is here. That's the median return, 2.23%. But that's just the average. And sometimes your return can be here, sometimes can be here. So all depends on the probability. And it won't be always the average return. And that's why we have this probability scale. So this is called a normal distribution. That's a distribution of probabilities. And so what is the standard deviation? So one standard deviation from the mean here, minus one standard deviation plus one standard deviation, we have a 68% of a probability that basically our return will lie here. And we have a 95% of probability that our returns, they will lie somewhere here. So 95% probability that the return will be either 2 deviations from the mean or 2 deviations from the mean to the plus. And 99.7% of probability that it will be either minus 3 standard deviations, either plus 3. So that's what standard deviation is about. It's about uncertainty and it's about risk as an uncertainty, as a volatility. So that's for those who forgot it. And now let's calculate the standard deviation. So we can take this. Okay. And the only thing that we change is the standard deviation. Wait. That is too big of a number, don't you think so? Well, that's because the standard deviation is analyzed differently. So that's what we have as a daily volatility, as a daily standard deviation. But the monthly standard deviation, how we get this number, is completely different. So what we do, so remember the 21-day thing? So we should multiply by the square root 21. And that's how we get the volatility. So that's how we get the standard deviation. Oops, sorry. So just copy that. And we do the same that what we did with monthly returns. Just change the ticker. Okay, keep going. Now, with an S&P 500, and this was the G column. Remember that. Remember to check your columns here. Okay. Okay, so for a portfolio, for a standard deviation of the portfolio, this is actually a much harder task than just get those. So generally, you may calculate the standard deviation of a 2-asset portfolio easily. So you just take the weight of the, so you take the weights of the variances of the portfolio, and then you take the weight of the variance of the first stock, the weight of the variance of the second stock, and then you take the double covariance of the first and second stock. So if you're curious about how to calculate the standard deviation of a 2-asset portfolio, I have a separate course about that's called portfolio optimization with the Markowitz model, where we talk a lot about the two asset portfolios and how to deal with them. So you can go to that one. Okay, so now we have calculated the monthly returns and the standard deviation. We'll need that later. So in the next task, we're going to calculate the beta and talk about what the beta is. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next task. Bye. Hi and welcome back. In the previous task, we've calculated the monthly return and the standard deviation of the stocks. In this task, we're going to work with the beta. So what is the beta? A beta of a stock is basically how it reacts to some unprecedented changes in a market environment. So and not only, so if something bad happens, how does it move compared to the index? Does it, so if there is a market crash, do the prices of this company, other stock prices falling far worse than the index prices, or are they stable, more stable than the index? So that's what beta shows us, and it takes into account the systematic risk. So there are two types of risk according to the capital asset pricing model. There is a systematic risk and unsystematic risk. Unsystematic risk is a risk that is related to a specific stock. So it's assumed that you should diversify it away, and that is why it's not included in any calculations. So you do not receive a premium for an unsystematic risk. You should bear that in mind. There is no risk premium for unsystematic risk, so there is no reason that you should not diversify your portfolio. For a diversified portfolio, you will reduce your risks, your unsystematic risk. As for unsystematic risks, you don't get any risk premium. You should remember that seriously. And there is a systematic risk. Systematic risk is inherent to the market, and it's basically related to the crash of the whole market. So if the whole market crashes, all the companies are going to fail. And how much will they fail? That's what beta is about. So let's say supermarkets, they'll have a very low beta. And let's say the car makers, or they will have a slightly bigger beta when there are crashes like recent coronavirus crash. So when people are sitting at home, they don't really need cars when they're at home. So beta can also be negative, because beta is related to the movement of the index it tracks to. So it can go negative. And so it means that the stock moves to the opposite direction of the market. And what we're going to do now is we're going to calculate the betas for the stocks, and we'll match them to the S&P 500. So we need that for our trainer ratio. Okay, so we can take this. There is no reason why we cannot use that. Okay. And what we do now is we take the covariance of this and okay, this is just for a moment. Just let's just take a look here. So let's copy that. Okay, so this is a covariance of the specific stock of Facebook and its corresponding index, S&P 500. And now we're gonna divide it by the variance of this same index. That's how we get the beta. Okay, so just copy the formula and do the same trick we did previously. So just change the tickers. Will save us a lot of time. Oh. There's no reason to do a beta of an index because we will match the index to the index. So the beta will be 1 and it won't bring us anywhere. So we've calculated a beta here of each stock and now basically they do the same that we did for the monthly returns. And that is why we can just copy and paste that, but with one we just don't want that to be in a percent, so it should be just number. Yeah, so that's our average beta. So we just get the beta of each stock and assign the weights to these betas, and that's the beta of our portfolio. So 130. So basically, let's say if the S&P 500 goes down by 10%, our bank portfolio, it should go down by 13%. If it goes up by 10%, it kind of has to go up by 13%. So we've calculated the beta in this task, and in the next task we're going to finally calculate the trainer ratio. See you in the next task. Hi and welcome back. In the previous task we've calculated the beta of the stock. In this task we're going to calculate the trainer ratio. So the mechanics is very similar to Sharpe ratio and Sortino ratio. So that's risk. That's a reward for the risk beyond the risk-free rate. So as you remember, our monthly risk-free rate is 0.19%. And as many of you ask, I will say it again. The risk-free rate is basically what we can, the return that we can get without taking any risk, and that is, for example, a return of a 10-year Treasury bill, United States Treasury bill, and before coronavirus, its monthly rate was 0.19%, and that's what we take as a risk rate. So to calculate the trainer ratio, we take our return minus the risk-free rate, then we divide it by beta. I'll copy that, and we have it here as well. So our trainer ratio, as we can see, is the highest for Netflix, because it has also the highest monthly return, as it has the highest beta, and the lowest has Google, as it has the lowest monthly return, as it has the lowest beta. Okay, so that's how we calculate the trainer ratio. We'll talk about it a little bit more later when we'll graph everything. And in the next task, we're going to calculate the value at risk and talk more about it. Thank you, and see you at the next task. Hi and welcome back. In the previous task we've calculated the trainer ratio. In this task we're going to look at the value at risk. So as we talked about it in the first task in our introduction to risk, there is a 68, 95, 99 rule where with the 3 standard deviations. So if it's a 1 deviation from the mean, then it's a 68% probability. The 2 deviations from the mean is 95% probability, and 3 deviations from the mean is 99% probability. So what a valid risk does is it takes so here we have our average return, and here we have our negative returns, right? So what the valid risk with a certainty of 95% says, for example, is it says that this is the maximum value that we can lose in 95% of situations, so with 95% certainty, and that will be the mean minus 2 standard deviations. So let's go from that logic and let's calculate the valid risk. So we take our mean return and we minus 2 standard deviations. So, and that will be the valid risk at 95%. Okay. Okay, we don't have a standard deviation here. So, let's do the same for the certainty of 99%. So, as you remember, 99% means 3 standard deviations. So, we take this, minus 3, multiplied by our standard deviation. Go all the way here. Okay, so let's take a look. So we saw that Netflix has the highest monthly return and has the highest trainer ratio, right? But what it also does have is it has the highest value at risk. So by saying that, oh, let's get a 3% monthly return, what you're risking at 99% of certainty, the maximum value you're risking is a 32%. In contrast, by getting a 1% of monthly return with Google, 1.46%, you're risking only 18.95%. So everything is statistical, meaning that we take the historical values, and it does not mean that we'll have that in future. Okay, so in this task we've calculated the values at risk, and in the next task we're going to graph trainer ratio and value at risk and make a conclusion. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next task.